My husband and I have been married for 20 years. This year, our son entered college and left home. Ex-life, with just my husband and me, is going fairly well. My husband created a baseball team with his colleagues, and he spends his weekends from morning to evening practicing. I work part-time and enjoy going to yoga with my friends. I believe we are a couple appropriate for our age. One day, I received a message from a yoga friend. She said, "I'm currently at the station, but isn't this your husband?" Reluctantly, I opened the photo to see my husband walking hand in hand with another woman. There my heart raced. Could my husband be cheating? He left today, saying he was going to practice for a match, but could that also be a lie? My friend asked, "What will you do? Will you come here?" After hesitating, I replied, "No, it's okay. I'll talk to my husband." What should I do? I'm scared to ask my husband. What if he really is cheating? What should I do? Divorce at this age. I worry. Can I lead a peaceful life as before if I pretend not to know? I ask myself. Coming back to my senses, it's already 7 p.m. When my husband returned home, he said, "What's wrong? Why are all the lights off?" It's as he turned on the living room light, looking puzzled. I quickly said, "Oh, sorry, I was sleeping." He started to laugh and began to wash his practice clothes. Seeing that, I thought maybe he had been practicing. Maybe the photo was a mistake. I asked, "Did you go anywhere else today besides baseball practice?" He replied, "Not. I thought maybe you went to buy the new shoes you wanted." I said, "I haven't changed them yet." The conversation ended there. My husband seemed as usual. I decided to think the photo might have been of someone else. Even when my husband came home late from overtime or stayed overnight for a sudden business trip, I couldn't help but doubt him. Bad news seems to follow. One day, I stopped by the supermarket on my way back from my part-time job. That's when I received a call from my brother. It had been years since we last spoke on the phone. He told me that our father's health was not good. He had suddenly collapsed at work, was rushed to the hospital by ambulance, and after some tests, they said he needed surgery. He wouldn't last long. My mother had passed away a few years ago, and although my father, now alone, had refused the offer to live with my brother and his wife, he was supposed to be living a healthy life on his own. Last week, when we spoke on the phone, he seemed fine, so I was very surprised. I told my brother I would visit soon and hung up. That night, when my husband came home from work, and I told him about my father, he looked sad. "So your father's not doing well?" He said kindly, "Into you," encouraged by my husband. I went to see my father the next day. Suddenly, I felt dizzy and couldn't get up. "It can't be aging," my usually talkative father said weakly. "I'm sorry to worry you. Is something wrong?" he asked, catching me off guard. With a wry smile, my father said, "You're like your mother, holding things in. We don't know what the future holds, so go with how you feel." Parents are happy seeing their children's smiles. That made me pause. I wanted to talk more with my father, but he said he was tired, so I decided to leave for the day. It was only about 15 minutes, but seeing how weak he was brought me to tears. As I waited for my tears to stop on a sofa, near my father's hospital room, a man in a white coat sat next to me. "Are you here to visit your father?" he asked. "I'm in charge of his care." The man started talking to me. I hurriedly wiped away my tears. "It's okay. It must have been a shock. Do you have any questions?" I asked him about my father's condition and what to expect, and he kindly explained everything to me. I felt much calmer by the time a nurse came to call him away. Then, I called the friend who sent me the photo and talked to her. I thought I might have done something unnecessary. "I'm sorry if I made you feel bad," my friend said. "No, I'm glad you told me. I'm finally ready to face my husband's infidelity, but I have no idea what to do." I honestly shared, and my friend laughed and offered advice. "Actually, my husband is a lawyer. I'll ask him for advice." I felt relieved. Soon, she even suggested a detective agency and offered to accompany me if I felt uneasy. In the following days, I was busy visiting my father and working part-time. At the same time, my husband said he became busier at work. History with more overtime in business trips, I became increasingly suspicious and looked forward to the investigation result. 2 weeks later, I was told by the detective agency that it was very clear. It was hard to hear, but I was able to accept the reality without feeling agitated. In fact, I felt a sense of relief after seeing some photos and having the past 2 weeks' activities explained to me and hearing audio data. It was awful to find out that my husband was only playing baseball once a week for 2 hours in the morning, and then spending the rest of his time with his affair partner. They would sometimes wait at a cafe near the baseball practice field for my husband to arrive. The practice clothes were washed on purpose, and his claims of overtime and business trips were all lies. The most shocking discovery was that my husband had told his affair partner that once he received his inheritance from his father-in-law's passing, they would divorce immediately. He probably won't last another month, so they were already planning to reserve a tower mansion near the station. The recent busyness was because he was starting to prepare the new house, reserving furniture and appliances. There was also a plan for a pre-marriage trip next month, which made me feel dizzy. The thought of my husband waiting for my father to pass away deeply hurt me. It was enough to lose all affection. I didn't feel sad or anything else. I just wanted to get divorced as quickly as possible. After making a hefty payment to the detective agency, I took all the data and, just in case, had it stored at a friend's house. My friend then introduced me to a lawyer she knew. I had spent all my money on the detective agency and was hesitant to touch our household finances, fearing it might negatively affect the divorce proceedings. Eventually, I swallowed my pride and consulted my brother. Though he scolded me for not consulting him sooner, he was willing to lend me the money for the lawyer's fees. I also spoke to my employer about the possibility of working as a contract employee or full-time, and they agreed to a contract position. This gave me some financial stability. Now, the question was how to confront my husband about the divorce. Then, one midnight, I received a call from my brother saying that our father had passed away. I woke my sleeping husband, and we headed to the hospital together. My husband briefly visited my father and greeted my brother and his wife before saying, "Take your time to say goodbye," and went home alone. After that, the funeral and greeting relatives kept me too busy to mourn. My brother and his wife were exhausted, and my husband was no help at all. Moreover, he went to play baseball right after my father had passed, which even my brother and his wife found appalling, but they said nothing. Knowing my firm decision to divorce, but with so much to do, the divorce had been put on hold. The situation finally escalated 6 months later. After all procedures related to my father were completed and the inheritance was finalized, my husband asked, "Has your father's inheritance come in yet?" I replied, "It's scheduled for tomorrow, but why?" To which he wondered about the amount, since my father had been a corporate executive. I said, "I've heard it's about $700,000. His surprised response was, "That much? Your father really saved up." I got a call from the lawyer today saying everything's ready. It'll be transferred tomorrow, so let's go eat something nice. I emphasized the transfer happening the next day with a smile. After my husband left for work the next day, I left my bank card and its PIN code on the desk before heading to work. Returning from work, as expected, the bank card and PIN were gone and a divorce form was left behind. Surprised by how smoothly things were going, I went to my lawyer to explain the situation and didn't return home but to my parents' house, where most of my belongings had already been moved. Seeing what to do with the shared belongings in our house would be decided later. My ex-husband and his affair partner could live there for all I cared. I had submitted the divorce papers and had no intention of contacting him again. 3 days later, my ex-husband called, bewildered that there was no money in the account and demanding to know where the inheritance had gone and where I was. I played along. "The inheritance is mine." "Prince, why would you use it? He seemed to be back at our house." I needed to contact my lawyer immediately. He demanded, "Why isn't the $700,000 in your bank account?" I replied, "Did you take my bank card?" I was preparing to change my salary deposit account. He raged over the phone, claiming it should be shared assets, but I retorted inheritance is a personal asset, not shared. Besides, we're no longer married. The divorce papers have been submitted. Don't contact me again. You can live with your affair partner. Affair partner in the house. I won't be returning. Goodbye. After hanging up, I informed my lawyer about his whereabouts. Ignoring all his calls over the past year, I finally felt at peace after enduring such difficult times. Opening his numerous messages, I found complaints about the property division and apologies, pleading for a chance to talk. Ignoring the messages and leaving my phone behind, I headed to work with a new phone in my bag that I would use from now on. After some time, my lawyer informed me that my ex-husband desperately wanted to meet. I agreed to a direct confrontation, but insisted on a public place for the meeting. My ex-husband and his affair partner showed up on time. It was the first time I had seen the affair partner in person, a young woman in casual attire, cute, 26 years old, working at a patisserie as I had learned from the investigation. My ex-husband appeared confused. My lawyer and I explained, "The inheritance was left to me by my father, and you have no right to it. The property division is due to divorce caused by your infidelity, which hurt me." My ex-husband argued, "It wasn't infidelity, it was a mismatch of personalities. And it was me who wanted the divorce, not you, so the infidelity doesn't matter." I retorted, "I never thought you lacked common sense to this extent. A person with a fault cannot initiate a divorce. It's not about who brings it up first. You cheated, so you're at fault." The affair partner, bewildered, exclaimed, "Why me?" before grabbing her bag and storming out of the cafe, drawing attention from other customers. However, my lawyer reassured me, "We know where she works, so it's not a problem." Leaving my ex-husband pale, my ex-husband began to make excuses about his affair partner. "She used to be so nice when we were having an affair, always smiling, and she would cry when it was time to leave." He then complained about her. "Her cooking isn't good, and she's always so demanding. It was cute before, but now that we're married, it's just troublesome, even though they had only been married for about a month." My ex-husband pleaded, "I realized I always compare her to you. You were always waiting for me and good at housekeeping and cooking. Can we start over?" I was appalled. "It's impossible. I can't trust you at all," I responded, and he kept begging for a second chance. I remember, from the time my father was said to be in danger until his death, you never visited once. You were having an affair even when I was going through a tough time. After my father died, all you thought about was the inheritance, right? I noticed several times you checked my bank account. You must have been planning to take it and leave the completed divorce form once the inheritance was deposited. My ex-husband trembled. "You must be thinking if we get back together, you won't have to pay property division." I guessed correctly, and he fell silent. Just embarrassed by his silence, I declared, "If there's nothing more to say, He broke down. "You're the most important to me. Please, let's start over," he begged through tears. "Stop, it's embarrassing. You're newlyweds, so you should talk it out with her," I dismissed him. "Actually, she's cheating on me. She married me for my money," he cried, defeated. I left him crying, picked up the bill and my lawyer, and I left the cafe. Later, to avoid further hassle, I contacted my ex-in-laws for advice. It was the first time I had called them since thanking them for attending my father's funeral. They were shocked to learn that their son hadn't informed them about the divorce or the remarriage. I had given up on expecting anything, but the next day, my ex-father-in-law, accompanied by his brother, went to confront my ex-husband. The brother, a boisterous man whom my ex-husband disliked, ensured the property division payment. They decided to take my ex-husband back to the countryside under their supervision. He would work at a relative's factory to pay the property division as promised by my ex-in-laws, who were now over 80 and without income. As for the affair partner, she unilaterally served my ex-husband with divorce papers. I reluctantly contacted her workplace. Speaking with a woman who identified herself as the manager, I learned a shocking fact. The affair partner was allegedly having an affair with the store manager's husband. The store manager said, "I'm preparing to sue. Rest assured, I won't let them get away with it." But true to her word, a few months later, the condolence money was deposited into my account. When I went to her workplace to express my gratitude, the affair partner was nowhere to be seen. I learned she was now working multiple jobs to repay the property division, including at a construction site nearby. During those hours, out of curiosity, I went to see and found the once cute-faced affair partner, now makeup-free and drenched in sweat, being scolded by an older man as she worked. She must be struggling with a significant amount of debt, a consequence of her actions and the turmoil she caused in another family's home. When I told my son about the divorce, he was quite surprised, but said, "It's your life, Mom. You should do what makes you happy." This was a relief to hear. I continue to cherish each day, determined to live my life to the fullest